And welcome back to my channel. In today's video, and for the next couple of videos, this might take a bit of time, I would like to review this book here, which I've read recently, called The Invisible Doctrine, The Secret History of Neoliberalism and How It Came to Control Your Life. Now this book is written by George Monbiot, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Peter Hutchison. So I took lots of notes, so I'm just going to basically review this book. Obviously this isn't like specifically about autism, and normally I do my videos about autism, but I feel this is quite relevant to autistic people and other people with disabilities lives. So I'm just going to review it, and then let me know what you think. And I should hopefully do some comments videos as well. Okay, so the book really kind of delves into, first of all, what is neoliberalism. And neoliberalism, one of the founding values of neoliberalism is competition. This turns people into consumers rather than citizens. The idea is that by buying and selling, we can discover a natural meritocratic hierarchy of winners and losers. The market, the invisible hand, will determine who deserves to succeed and who does not. The idea is that talented and hard-working, neoliberalism posits a binary between talented and hard-working versus weak and incompetent. The idea is that the wealth that winners generate will trickle down to enrich everyone else. Conversely, an active state seeks to change social outcomes through public spending. Neoliberals argue that this rewards failure, fuels dependency, and subsidises the losers. Creating an unenterprising society, discouraging risk-taking, and a society run by bureaucrats. So that's what the neoliberals say, and they claim that government intervention will inevitably lead to some form of tyranny, and they say that there's a natural hierarchy of hard work, where this idea that the harder someone works, the more rewards they will get, and that people who've become very rich, they would argue, have worked very hard, and then their wealth will then trickle down naturally to everyone else. That's what they argue. But, as this book argues, wealth, far from trickling down, has increasingly become concentrated in the hands of those who already possessed it in the first place. And while the state might have deregulated finance, leaving bosses freer to behave as they wish, the state has, paradoxically, reasserted control over other citizens, for example, stifling protest, just one example. And of course, if you receive benefits, you know all too well how controlling and oppressive the state can be over your life. So really, neoliberalism very much is about freedom for the rich to do what they want, and everyone else is going to experience the oppressive arm of the state more and more. So really, it's very double standard. It's double standards. The rich are also allowed. It also allowed the rich to believe that they secured their wealth through their own enterprise, and this, of course, overlooks the advantages of birth, education, race, and class, and other variables that beyond there, other variables of privilege. Neoliberalism blames individuals for being in debt or out of work, etc. So neoliberalism individualises. If someone is out of work, or someone is disabled, or someone is poor, or someone is in debt, whatever, someone is obese, whatever, it's their fault. It's the individual's fault. Neoliberalism says you're not taking responsibility. You're not looking after number one, because neoliberalism is all about individual taking responsibility. If they get in a mess, it's their fault. It's not to do with societal structures, or economics, or where you live, or any of that. It's your fault, your responsibility. That's what neoliberalism argues. The book then it looks at the kind of origins of capitalism as well, arguing that capitalism very much depends on coercion and violence for its it very much is dependent on coercion and violence. Capitalism turns shared resources into exclusive property. The book traces capitalism's origins to the island of Madeira, which is 220 miles off the west coast of North Africa. Now, Madeira was colonised by the Portuguese in the 1420s. It was originally an uninhabited island. Madeira actually means wood in Portuguese. I never actually knew that before, so that was interesting to learn. So that's why it's called Madeira, because it literally means wood in Portuguese. The Madeiran forests were felled to meet the need for timber. That was what they originally used Madeira for, was to collect timber. But then they began to produce sugar. Then Madeira was used to produce sugar. And the colonists imported labour in the form of slaves from the Canary Islands and Africa. And this was a big shift. This was a big societal shift. Because previously, in feudal times, there were certain sort of social norms and social constraints. For example, from certain sort of values that were codified. The codified system of mutual obligation, very much sort of influenced by the church, and also a kind of sense of sort of noblesse oblige, where wealthy sort of landowners having a sort of sense of obligation, a sort of web of obligation, if you like, and so this was a big shift. Importing labour in a form of slaves from elsewhere. This was kind of very much novel, and this is in a sense the big difference, you could say, between capitalism and feudalism. Where in a sense you lose the connection to sort of real kind of use value, and you're now like just extracting for the pure sake of making profit. untethered to any actual real needs. So this was completely new. They were able to produce sugar more efficiently than before, but what was also new was the speed at which productivity peaked and collapsed. As Madeira ran out of Madeira, that's to say out of wood, they had to quit Madeira and look elsewhere. Because in order to stoke the boilers to make the sugar, you needed a hell of a lot of Madeira. You needed a lot of wood. That was needed to. You needed a kilogram of sugar. A kilogram of sugar required 60 kilograms of wood. So that resulted in a huge amount of forest clearance. So yes, they had to quit Madeira to look elsewhere, because eventually they completely ran out of wood. So this led to a situation of boom, bust, quit. And this is the classic capitalist pattern. Boom, bust, quit. You can't have capitalism without that. Capitalism depends, that's kind of part of what capitalism is. Boom, bust, quit. The seizure, exhaustion and abandonment of new geographical frontiers is central to capitalism. Okay, so now I'm going to move over to video number 2 to carry on going over the invisible doctrine. So I'm moving over to video number 2 now.